A very good morning and a warm welcome to this week's edition of The Dialogue. We apologize for starting a bit late, but here we are to look at the big stories of the week, put them into context, and the panelists will be dissecting these stories. My name is Sima Polo. Welcome to the show. And quite a long list of issues to look at. And being a busy week it was, we will look at the President and Head of State, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, pardoning 200 prisoners. And these were actually pardoned on health and humanitarian grounds. These also include the former PS of the public service, who was convicted in the infamous pension fraud, Jimmy Ramafa. But we also have to look at the military court that dropped charges against the former Inspector General of Police, General Kale Kaihura, a day before he was retired from the army. And we know well that General Kale Kaihura was sacked in 2018, then slapped with charges related to failure to protect military stores and repatriating Rwandan refugees. But again, this week, all the charges were dropped, and a day after, he was retired from the army at 67 years. Then we have time to look at the coup in Gabon. We have discussed these coups, but looks like the practice is becoming rampant. Ali Bongo was deposed by his own bodyguard, the army that is meant to protect him. And as we speak, General Bryce Clotaire Orugi-Nguema has been declared as the head of the transitional committee in Gabon. But finally, we'll be looking at the fairly peaceful rallies that have been conducted by the opposition National Unity Platform. Quite interesting, looking back at how security in this country has been crushing opposition rallies, but Robert Sentam Kyagulanyi, the president of the National Unity Platform, and other leaders of the party managed to pull off several events across the western part of the country. And the question will be, what actually has changed and how sustainable is this fairly a good move? Let me introduce the guest this morning, Dr. Gerard Wanzala, a resident panelist. He is a policy, public and policy researcher. Speak to our viewers before we start. Happy to see you once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, I have to appreciate the Salt Media for always giving us this platform to discuss matters of national and global importance.
Yeah.
And also, good morning to our esteemed viewers. It's always great to be here with you every Saturday, and looking forward to 2 hours of engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will come back, Comrade Daniel Rugarama, the chairman of the Pan-African Movement. Welcome to the show. I'm happy to see you back.
Good morning to you, our viewers, and good morning to my comrades here in the studio. I'm always pleased to be invited to come and share my humble views with our esteemed audience.
You were very busy this week with awards and...
Yes, we had the Global Pan-African Awards. We had our comrades from all over the world. Of particular interest was our guest speaker, our comrade Joshua Maponga Marara III, and who was looking at, he presented his keynote speech about the bottlenecks of Africa. We need to get you that recording. A very beautiful piece. We also had finally the ambassador of Cuba to Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi, who was our chief guest. you also need to share that speech of hers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is the Pan-African movement really serious as you put it?
You see, it is that question is a very welcome question, and I take it. I gladly receive it because, like our senior comrade in West Africa, Nigeria, called Osborne once observed that if by the time I leave this earth, my grandmother cannot resonate with what Pan-Africanism is all about, then I would have failed the cause of Pan-Africanism. Yes, Pan-Africanism is certainly a very important and serious concept, but it is work in progress because our intention is to make sure that it resonates with the lowest, if there is such a thing, man on the ground. That if, for instance, we are talking about a Sikh civil service, can the civil service on the African continent think Pan-African, be patriotic enough, such that we do not have to have issues where you have got a situation of the head of state in the country called Uganda complaining that the civil service is infested with compradors who are agents of neocolonialism. Such that when we even borrow money from World Bank, over 80% of what is borrowed is never put to the correct use. All that and much more. Or we have people in responsible offices, be it in private sector or public sector, who are interested in doing the bidding of the neo-colonialist. That's what we are looking at.
Dr. Daniel, I will not open that discussion now, but we'll find time to expound on Pan-Africanism.
I will invite him and give him a platform very soon.
Really?
Something I'm working on. So I like what he's talking.
I appreciate that.
Looks like the people in West Africa are now reviving and rekindling that spirit of Pan-Africanism which the Nkrumahs and the Patrice Lumumbas had, because you can hear them now speak like, we will no longer allow people to come and take our minerals. We will no longer allow foreign forces dictating our security here, and I think that is Pan-Africanism in one word or another.
And if they keep true to what they are saying, and it is not mere rhetoric, I can assure you that going forward, France is not going to be a third world country, which it is supposed to be, but fourth world, if there is such a word.
Thank you, Dr. Comrade Daniel Garama. I'm happy to have you on the show again. But I welcome Council Aaron Chiza, a human rights activist, but also an advocate for better environment. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's my distinct pleasure to be in the company of these very wise gentlemen, and of course to interact with your wonderful audience. And I must emphasize that even as we discuss Pan-Africanism, as we discuss the politics of the day, the police, the political parties, even more important are the challenges that our world is facing. The planet Earth is under is facing a triple planetary crisis of pollution, of biodiversity loss, and of the climate emergency. Man has been consistently attacking nature, and yet nature is the one that houses man.
Yeah.
So man has been acting stupid over centuries, and we are almost committing collective suicide.
Wow.
So it's very important that we protect ourselves. It is in our selfish interest as humanity to protect nature, because nature can do without us if we continue attacking it. Yes,
That's true.
You must be happy with the recent presidential directive on charcoal burning, export of timber, the directive on encroachers in the wetlands, you must be happy with those directives.
With the caveat, yes, I'm happy, I welcome all those. But you know, we have laws that say what he's repeating in the directives. Uganda's problem is not speeches, directives, or even laws. We have an implementation lacuna. So until the president stops behaving like a civil society leader and starts behaving like the president that he is, with all the power in the constitution, and implement and enforce the laws, his pronouncements will not excite me.
Wow. Thank you so much, our viewers. We kick off the show now, right here. My name is Sima Polo, but you can be part of this big discussion. Send your WhatsApp messages on our line, you know it, and even we take even the SMSs, short messaging system or service. Make your comment and observation brief and precise, to the point, and we'll be reading it out as the show progresses. Dr. Jiddu Wanzala, let's go straight to the military court, the General Court Martial in Kampala, dropping all charges against the former IGP, General Kale Kaihura. And Kaihura is one gentleman who ruffled feathers across the board while he was in his 12-year reign as the IGP. And the charges were serious because they involved failure to protect military stock and repatriating those refugees. All of a sudden, he has been on bail, I think, since 2020. The General Court Martial drops all the charges.
Thank you very much for that topic, Apollo. First of all, I congratulate him. You know, especially if you have challenges with the army and you're serving officer here, it's not so easy for you to be released from the service, military service, because they want to tame you so that you, when you get out of the forces, you do not export maybe that character from the service to the civilian life. But I congratulate him that finally he joined the civilian life. But as you know, in Uganda and elsewhere, the people in the military, when they retire, they become part of the reserve force, and therefore they are always expected to give support here and here in the community on matters relating to security. For me, I will handle this matter based on one, what legacy does the General Kaihura leave? One, I look at him as a person who was very loyal to the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. I remember he became the IGP at the time I was in Makerere University, and at that time Makerere were in terms of debating, and we still had the Lumumba Terrace where we used to meet almost every Friday to discuss politics. And I think it was during his administration that police started attacking our debates. And at one moment we were locked up in Lumumba Hall with the chains there. We couldn't get out for some days. So because of his loyalty, there are mistakes. Of course, he contributed to promoting stability of the state, but at the same time, he also violated the rights of so many people. And as you are aware, that there were even attempts one time to withdraw his certificate, of practicing certificate, and because of what they call violations. You also take note that his position earned him sanctions. He's one of those people on the EU, US sanctions.
He's under sanctions. US
monetary, travel, he cannot move or move his money here and there. So I think in the course of his duty, he has paid the price. Like when he was taken to the court martial, you know that his movements were limited to only his farm in
Kasagama.
in Kasagama, Liantonde. You know, once your freedom is limited, it's not a good thing. But also, I'm not surprised with the manner in which he was freed, because I have been getting information that most of his confidants who had either fled, like Baroza, others who were jailed, had come back. And I've seen some of them go for wedding, and the president donating money. So it was work in progress before he would be released. I also recall that in 2021 elections, the president went to Kisoro to campaign, and one of the petitions that he received was from the LOC5 chairperson, who said, please forgive our son.
Yeah.
This has been happening in Uganda. When Mike Mukula was arrested over Gavi, we saw the Emorimora and others coming, save our son. When Kiza Besigye was arrested, was going to be arrested the first time, we saw the Rukunjiri group coming to petition the president. And I think this also shows that people are not usually concerned about the crimes someone has committed, whether corruption, but they matter more if someone comes from the community. But most importantly, recently, the General Muhoozi was on his way to Kabale. He stopped at General Kaihura's home, and they took a photo, and actually he tweeted saying he's going to ensure that he talks to Muzee, and the Kaihura will be let free, because he made a contribution and was one of those models that the MK grew up looking up to. Now, for me, looking at all this, what do I say? One, that does it prove that the court-martial is a walking stick of the head of state? Because one of the lawyers are here. One of the good principles of law is that the law should not have eyes. Of course, the president has a prerogative of mercy, but he has to exercise it when someone has been sentenced, tried, sentenced, either convicted, like the way he freed.
Not on remand.
Not on remand, and who are still on trial. So if you release people who are still on trial, it means you have trashed all the cases, the offenses. And so it is a danger to the community. If at all there was illegal movement of war material, if at all there were kidnaps, Uganda has so many refugees in this country. So if there were coordinated, alleged coordinated kidnaps of refugees, if there were crimes involved, why do we have to discontinue the trial because of political reasons only?
So you think the acquittal has that political element? It's political in any way?
Absolutely. Because we have seen civilians being tried in the court-martial, where even the Kizas have been in the court, secured the bail. When they are granted bail, they are rearrested. But then we are seeing very serious crimes being swept under the carpet, and someone is free. So what happens to us, the citizens who have spent money in financing the court-martial, people sitting on our taxes, and then all of a sudden there are no. So we should stop using the court-martial as a political tool.
Thank you. Let me hear from Aaron Chiza. Aaron Chiza, I think, had time to internalize these issues, because at one point I think he was in the thick of these issues around General Kaihura and the violation of human rights of individuals. Do you agree that possibly the General Court-Martial has been in courts, as Wanzala said, has been used to drop these charges, has been influenced or in any way?
Remove the courts. It's the whole point, the whole construction, the whole existence of the court-martial exists to obey the whim of the commander-in-chief.
Really?
That's it. The appointment, creation, composition, performance of the court-martial does not even pretend to do anything other than fulfilling the mission, desires, wishes. It is not there to do law in accordance, to do rule of law. No. The court-martial is a disciplinary organ of UPDF.
Yeah.
So when you deviate from anything that UPDF likes, you are punished. But by UPDF, we are really not talking about a professional army like you're going to imagine. We are talking about a NRA under a different name. And we are still talking about Museveni's walking stick.
Really?
So, yes. So what Museveni wants is what happens in the court-martial. And I've been in a court-martial countless times. It's not even, beyond even what I've told you about the fact that it's appointed at the whim and pleasure and removed, it does not even pretend to be impartial. It's just there. There is a group of people called observers. Just call them spies. So everyone in the court-martial, once you're stepping in, you're being observed, you're being recorded, and some people above are going to be analyzing what you did on that very day. You get me? And it is even the law. There are people there to observe what you're doing. So there is no scintilla of impartiality in the court-martial. There is no security of tenure. It's not a court.
In this particular case, in essence,
I'm trying to show you that the Kihura matter is a microcosm of what happens. It's not very different. And yes, I'm agreeing with my brother that it's politics, it's not the law. So there is the legal side, which is, for example, torture is the most abhorrent crime. It's among those things that can constitute a crime against humanity. Yeah, it's prohibited. Even in the war, you are not allowed to torture. Kihura was facing the most serious charges possible. You get me? And these charges, you remember, they once got him privately prosecuted, and you know the private prosecution, how he found it. He went to the Constitutional Court, which has now said that no, he has no immunity and so on and so forth. But anyway, it's all. So we have the law, but the law exists within the political realm, and it is overpowered, especially when high-flying figures are involved. So I'm not for or against Kihura. But any discussion of the Kihura incident that removes it from the politics is childish. Even it is an way to start discussing Kihura without talking about the Rwanda-Uganda relations. His problem was that he was on the wrong side, because Museveni is not going to charge you because of corruption, of an offense. Whether it is torture, whether it is even state, no, you're not going to get into court. You can't even get to a civilian court if you are in the government because of corruption of an offense. No. So every time you see a government official or a military man being charged, yes, focus for legal purposes on the case, but know that that's not the reason they are there. Where have they fallen out? So Kihura was perceived or indeed supported Rwanda. I don't know. I don't care about the politics of what he did, what he didn't. I wish he had not got involved in human rights violations. Now that caused him problems. Once the Rwanda-Uganda relations improved, he had to be free.
So in essence, yes. General Kihura didn't deserve what the military court did to drop all these charges. Are you saying?
Most likely, because even if he deserved, the court-martial has no competence. It's not like an organ that you can trust, that it's credible, that's competent, that's impartial. So whatever it does, be suspicious.
Okay.
Yes. Whether it is the charging of him from the word go, or even the dropping. It's not the law they are quoting. It's not the charge. It's not the section. It is the politics surrounding the court that you are. So now what you're saying is that Kihura is in good books of Museveni. And it is also one of the reasons, of course, he has been deflated. No one fears Kihura the way you used to fear him. He is no longer having a big political constituency beyond Chisoro. You get me? He is a weak man.
So where does that leave his immunity. If anyone wants to move private prosecution against him,
he's naked. Anyone, even tomorrow, I can charge Kiura. There's nothing that stops me. But again, so that is for the law. Before the law, Kiura is still naked, exposed. But the politics, which are even more important than the law here, which actually determine reality, is that he's strong, he's favored. He is now, although he's weak politically, he's now a beneficiary of Museveni's patronage. So they can't be.
Even if anyone moves private,
the DPP will take it and kill it.
He will possibly get off the hook.
You can't get a conviction now against Kiura.
Comrade Rugarama, I don't know what you make of what happened in the military court this week.
Okay. Once again, kudos to my colleagues here. Of course, I have attentively listened to Comrade Wanzara and Comrade Chiza here. I do not intend to put up any defense for my senior comrade Kare Kiura. I will simply present my views the way I have over time assessed the circumstances under which our senior brother has been operating. When you read books such as Betrayed by My Leader, authored by retired Major John Kazora, when you read the publications by the late General Pecos Kutesa, when you even read the latest book by Dr. Koburunga Miriam Matembe, and a few others, you get a sense of where NRM came from and probably where we are now. To the extent that there are those tenets, especially the 10 now to 15 point program of NRM, which probably we have not kept alive. That some of these challenges are certainly committed by, the mistakes rather are committed by the actors within the system. To the extent that when you become overzealous, and NRM is not short of overzealous characters. Note that sometimes they do it by omission and sometimes by commission. To the extent that now we have got an increasing breed of actors within NRM who, you will forgive my language, but they have not taken time to appreciate the NRM ideology. Of course, somebody will say, NRM even doesn't have an ideology. And I don't want to go into that nature of politics. Because in all fairness, a system that came from the bush with the 10-point program, it expanded to the 15-point program. It is around that an ideology is crystallized. Certainly, with the challenges that any government meets when it comes into leadership. You see, you can talk whatever you want to talk when you are not in leadership, when you don't have the government. But the moment the government comes in, then the real challenges hit you. I will give you just two examples.
Are you saying General Kayihura was also a victim of circumstances?
Absolutely, absolutely. I will tell you one. That's why I started with those authorities. These are people who have been in government. They are the guys who have been in the bush, and they came up and they wrote. Now, when you take your time and you go through some of these books, you will understand what I'm talking about. But let me just tell you. You remember at the time when General Kayihura, for instance, was having hard time with the opposition. You remember the walk to work. You remember this brother of ours, Omar, Commander Omar, with his altercations with Dr. Chiza Besige. around that time. Now, you would, and of course the people of the Chibokos and what have you. Now, anybody, my brother here, Aaron, would tell you that the rule of law, the way to do things, now discussing the law, is supposed to be not the way General Kihura was presiding over what he was presiding
but
over.
You see, Comrade General Kihura is an accomplished lawyer.
Yes.
He held that power.
They are not debating his credentials. They are saying, how did he perform his functions?
That's what I'm coming to. He understood the law.
Yes.
He held a lot of power.
Yes.
As the IGP. And then you say that he's a victim of circumstances.
You see,
he was, wait a minute, possibly he was in a better position to do what is right at that particular time.
What do you think was right at that point? Because you see, we are now going to have a clash of the politics and the law. And certainly there will always be a clash, especially in circumstances such as ours here in Uganda. I will tell you that, and I hedged myself. I said, I have got no problem with the submissions that my brother Aaron Chiza has just made. No, he's correct. From his point of view, and from the point of view of any lawyer, sincere lawyer, he's very correct. My brother, Dr. Wanzara, is equally correct. But you see, we are only contextually correct. And I will tell you also...
So you agree that the charges were dropped on basing on political, maybe, influence?
You yourself, you observed, and I think even Aaron Chiza here commented on it, that if the charges in the first place, you see, all these things are allegations, by the way. That's why we get these allegations in whatever form they are, and we assess, after assessing to a certain point, where we seem to think that we can sustain them in the court process. We will get charged, and then we subject you to court processes. Now, Aaron here has told you that court martial is not a court. These are his words. I hope I'm right.
That it is someone's walking
he said it is someone's walking stick. You see? Now, if we agree that, for instance, we suspect that even the charges themselves should not have been leveled against who? Against him. Why should we disagree that in dropping them, it was also no problem?
Okay, Comrade, thank you so much. One word from you, Doctor, as we conclude this particular issue. Councillor Aaron said General Kihura is a naked man now. Do you agree?
Yeah, you know, why I agree with that statement is that if you look at the circumstances for his being set free, because now you are naked. You are not
I saw
officer.
him, I mean, I saw him very, very happy, saying, I am happy, I'm free. You can't imagine how happy I am. But here, Aaron says he's a naked man.
You know how a state
Maybe,
operates.
Doctor, just information, just a statement. You remember that even the USA, with her allies, sanctioned him.
Yeah, true.
But we also have it.
remain.
We also have it on good record that during the tenure of Kihura as the IGP, he worked closely with CIA and other intelligence agencies of America and her cousins. And what they committed were, in the words of Gund Council Chiza Aaron, heinous crimes. Because we know what America, for instance, does, globally speaking. Go around, pick people, take them to Guantanamo Bay, and if they were working on it with the likes of General Kihura, and they ended up sanctioning him. So that hypocrisy and double standards, it's not only unique to America, it can happen anywhere.
Even here.
Yes.
Okay.
I was concluding
Conclude.
that he actually is naked. Why is he naked? I look at the circumstances under which he was freed, that he's under the control of someone. And then secondly, if this someone still has power, if for instance, I give an example, if he said, I'm rebelling and I'm joining this group to fight, to fight in politics to remove this one, they can reinstate those charges.
Oh.
They can use a person
So
like
he's a vulnerable.
he's very vulnerable.
So
it's a fact.
finally, do you see any possibility of redeploying him?
Yeah,
How do we know he's not redeployed already?
it has always happened. You can be really.
So he's telling you that you are assuming that all deployments are public.
What MK said that we shall consider, freeing him and rehabilitating him. So what does the rehabilitation mean?
You think he may be redeployed soon, covertly or overtly?
Yeah, there is no doubt that Museveni likes to deal with weak colleagues. So he will not put him again as IGP because he saw what he could do in terms of Kiura was not removed because of the mistakes, legal mistakes he did. He was removed because he was thought to be plotting to overthrow Museveni, working with some foreign country.
So you
That is
now
an
agree what I'm
You get
talking,
me?
telling you.
So-
The machinations within.
You get me? There are allegations that, of course, once they put them to the test, some people think that maybe the ISO, the reports were exaggerated, whatever. But that is it. Even Caesar said that my wife should be above suspicion. Even the fact that it could be thought, you see, power is about perception. Even if I don't intend to remove Museveni, but should I be perceived by the public that I actually intend to remove him, then very soon you'll find you can't call me here because I would be in Ruzera.
Thank you.
But the biggest point I want to mention on this is that lessons for the likes of Kiura is from what he said that you're working with a global power to harass your own people. It can't protect you. If it is true that he worked with US to commit crimes, why is the US charging him?
Yeah.
We should desist from committing crime because it is wrong, it is bad, and whatever benefits you think come accrue, they are short-lived and they are deceptive. Power can change very quickly.
Thank you so much. Viewers, you can send your comments and observations on 0701 609906. In a few minutes, we'll be going to a short break, but send in your comments relating to the topics being discussed in the studios. Dr. Jared Wanzara, we have dissected issues around the coups in West Africa and Central Africa, but I wish we give it some little time. What is happening, or what actually this week happened in Gabon, these rampant coups. I don't know what if you have a latest opinion on what is happening on this continent.
Yeah, thank you, Apple. Previously, we have talked about the issue, the anti-French sentiments in French West Africa, and as being part of the reasons for the coup, including the continued control of the former colonies, the keeping of reserves in France, and therefore France uses their money to actually do business, the long-term contracts on natural resources. They are also a factor that you don't have a chance to review them, and yet maybe they were procured very cheaply, and France also continued stationing of its military in each of their former colonies as a factor. But I want to come to the one of Gabon. Gabon, of course, the issue of the French sentiments is there, but also it has particularly been very popular in Uganda, because I'm on social media, or I see Facebook, or Twitter. I don't know, Ugandans seem to be very excited with this particular coup. And probably they try to link it to the circumstances of longevity. As you are aware that the Bongo family took power in 1967 in that country. The father ruled up to 2009, and in 1989 actually, he appointed this Ali Bongo.
After 41 years?
Yeah, exactly. He appointed him Minister of Foreign Affairs, and by the time the father died, he was the Minister of Defense. And so the son continued. He suffered a stroke in 2019. as you see, he moves while limping. But he has also positioned another son, a son, who is a grandson of Omar Bongo, who is 30 years and is the coordinator of presidential affairs, positioned to take power. So I think, for me, I would put it in the context also of the African democracy, in quotes. You see, Uganda, so in Africa, coups were very many in the 70s, 60s, for various factors, even guerrilla wars. Now, in the 90s, the African leaders started a process of instilling what they call democracy. But what have we seen in this kind of democracy? Democracy has its principles. Free, fair, credible elections, freedom of press, rule of law, equality for the rule of law, you know, inclusion, that many people should be able to participate, and things like that. But the version of democracy in many African countries is that use the elections as a tool to gain legitimacy. So you can hold elections over and over again, and then your people will be sent to the media and say, but we won. But at the end of the day, we are not able to look at the realities. I looked at the development indicators in Gabon. GDP per capita is over 10,000 US dollars.
10,700.
Yeah, 10,700. Uganda is about, of course, the president says we are in the middle income, but other entities are saying we are below 1,000. So right now, even the statistics are confusing. Then you look at the population is only 2.3. So their economy of 22 billion, having 2.3 million citizens, basically people would live a fairly reasonable life.
And but the land size is more or less.
And the land size is like Uganda, it has forests, natural resources, and things like that.
Mineral riches.
Exactly. So if you look at those indicators, the Bongo family would say, people are okay, GDP per capita is okay. But these figures are deceptive. Let's look at the Human Development Index, for instance. I would come to Uganda. The statistics are saying only 39% of Ugandans are out of the money economy. But look at the theft. If a person goes to steal your number plate and makes it an economic activity, to begin calling you, that you go and pay and your number plate is given. you go to Karamoja, a whole sub-region. You look at people dying, about 600 people dying of hunger every day. So the African leaders, what they call democracy, is not actually democracy. It is hypocrisy, pretending. Actually, I rather deal with a person who says, I don't entertain elections.
So the Gabonese have realized that they are being served the raw deal, and then they...
Of course, now the military, you saw when they are reading the statement, they said he organized the fake election. These are the same people who are guarding him when he's campaigning, and then when he's declared the winner, he switched off the internet. Actually, I was even surprised that he was using now the internet to tell us to make noise. make noise, you know, by sharing. Because you switch off internet, you are disturbing business people. You switch off social media, there are people who are surviving, they don't rent space, they sell their goods. So, at the end of the day, it's about you, the person. Africa needs to move away from these engineered political monarchs. People are not stupid. After 40, 50 years, expect change. Change is inevitable.
Did you say that this particular coup excited Ugandans most?
They are very happy. In fact, there's one who made me laugh and said, if this was in Uganda, people would be dancing Simba, Namfuka, I don't know what, you know, Kadodi. Because it's not that maybe our head of state is really a bad person. But time comes when you must think beyond your family. Time comes when you must think beyond. There are people who feel a sense of betrayal. That they were driven to the war. We have seen them talk. To the war in Luero, promising restoration of democracy, rule of law, free and fair elections, human rights, and so. Now they are in their corners watching. Should we continue like that?
All right, that's it from Dr. Jared Wanzara, public policy researcher, and we'll be going for a short break. When we return, we conclude on this issue of rampant coups in West now coming to Central Africa, and there were suggestions that possibly it may happen soon in Cameroon. And
like that one.
Paul Biya moved very fast to reshuffle the top
just one
military.
Now, a president like Paul Biya, you are 90 years old, you have ruled since 1982, you spend 6 months in Switzerland or
39
France.
years now in power.
Then when election time, because you know you have paid the military, the police, you come and launch your campaign, then you go doing plastic surgery in Paris.
Okay.
Are you ruling goats?
We go for a break. The dialogue will return after the break, and we'll look at much more. We have to look at the fairly peaceful rallies conducted by the NUP. What does it mean? Have police and security agencies now possibly realized that people should actually have freedom to assemble? Let's go for a break and return after this break. The short break, this is the dialogue. My name is Simapolo. On the panel we have Dr. Jared Wanzara. He's a public policy analyst and a researcher. We have Comrade Daniel Rugalama, the chairman of the Pan-African Movement. And we are also blessed to have Council Edwin Chiza, a human rights activist, but also an advocate for green Africa and that environment, advocacy on environment. Let's look at, of course, the coups that have become rampant right from the Sahel, but this is Central Africa now. It's coming.
It doesn't matter as long as France is involved.
There's an ocean the other side. So
on their side. Comrade Rugalama, you have to take your shot. And I want you to tell us what could be different in this case of Gabon. And like Dr. Wede said, why did it trigger excitement down here?
Let me start with the excitement, maybe. Let me start with excitement. You know, Comrade Aporo, whenever you invite me to a topic of this nature, and remembering that I'm limited by time, you really do me a disfavor. But nevertheless, let me try to do within the time limits. The social media people are getting excited because the circumstances in Gabon, more or less, save for the bit of history that for us, the independence president is not Museveni. We had Milton Obote, then we had Idi Amin. Later on, we had the revolution brought in by Museveni. So you cannot tag the Umar Bongo, for instance, time. Then later on, after the 42 years, bringing in his son, Ali Bongo, forming the 56 or thereabout years of leadership in a country like Gabon to ours. But the similarity there...
You mentioned that Omar Bongo died in power.
He did. He died in power, but he had prepared his son. And I think the social media people here mainly want to greatly link it to what this MK project here is. You know, sometimes you have to look at these things and say them the way they are. They think that there is an orchestrated plan by His Excellency the President to prepare the son, the MK, to take over, that all the rights indicators are all out there in the public to see. So the excitement is that, and the prayer from those who think like that, is that what has happened now in Gabon, may it happen here, even here in Uganda. But the beauty about debate and life is that you let people be, those who think like that, and it is their prayer, let them continue. Probably God is going to answer. We also have another group like ourselves who are praying differently and who think it is not what they think, and probably we shall see.
I wish I could know what your prayer is.
We shall we shall see who the God will answer much faster and probably for a very long time. Now, having said that, I believe that I have at least arrested that aspect of the debate.
That is the cause of excitement.
That's the cause of excitement. There is nothing much more. Because at one time, you remember, there were a number of deaths, president dying here, there, and then they were like, oh God, we have been praying. Why can't this kind of deaths also visit us here in Uganda? Including even the deaths of...
Isn't it important to interrogate why a section of people...
There will always be, let me tell you, that even in there is nothing like pure 100%. Even in a community, for instance, like Cuba, where we know that they are there for the good of themselves as a community, there will always be collaborators for the American government. You will find one or two, and they have been apprehended. And I'm not underrating the opposition in Uganda, because I know when we go for elections that there is a percentage that votes opposition. Yeah, sure. Now, if that is the kind of the social media maniacs that are praying for such to happen here in Uganda, you let them be. And I think we are going to open up a debate where we're going to be looking at the opposition party, NUP and what have you, being let free, and like how it was probably in the past of the forces interfering with the interaction of the political parties with the public out there. Now, the coups on the African continent, and especially the recent ones, including Mali, including now Niger, including Burkina Faso, including Guinea, Conakry, including now Gabon, among others. Of course, they want to say that also in Libya it was a coup. I disagree. It has got a lot to do, if I may take you a little bit back, with how Africa as a continent regained her independence. Right from the formation of the Organization of African Unity, the 1963 conference, forming this unity, there is a crop of leadership that the departing colonialists were not prepared for. Certainly, the departing colonialists, if they indeed they were departing anyway, were not prepared for the Dr. Osejefo Lumumba, I mean Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. They were not prepared for the Ben Beras of this world. They were not prepared for Emery Patrice Lumumba. They were not prepared for Abdul Gamar. They were not prepared for Amilcar Cabral of Conakry. That crop, that breed, the Olympios of Togo, that breed which was to undo what the white man had done, they were not prepared for them. And they hadn't realized that that is the kind of crop that was coming to take over the leadership. Now, when that happened, that is why you experienced those coups. You remember the litany of coups around that period? Yeah. It was to do away with that crop of leaders who were anti the neo-colonialism that had been established by the colonial master who was departing but wanting to institute neo-colonialism. Now, the people they put in place were subservient and were stooges. And therefore, it created a temporary reprieve. A temporary situation where they were studying and these were collaborating, and that is where the Umar Bongos of this world came in. Whereby the contracts that we are talking about that ensured the continued flow of raw materials from the African continent to their capitals, the former colonial capitals, was ensured.
Brussels.
So where the pact, for instance, for continuation of colonization, which was signed between France and the former French colonies, as long as it was working, it didn't matter who was in power. If it was Umar Bongo, as long as he was ensuring what was happening for the French to keep benefiting, that was okay. And that is why you realize that the people, not everybody died within the ranks of that kind of crop that I'm talking about. They kept seeing. And because there were at intervals, there were signals that the revolutionaries may come back. It is on record that France has interfered within French West Africa militarily over 50 times. That is the lifespan, almost the lifespan of when of the time that the African continent, averagely it is 60 years, that has had regained independence. So that tells you that particularly in Gabon, where we had a situation of Umar Bongo, and just before him, of course, you know that Umar Bongo also was a vice president. He was not the first president of Gabon. I think there was Dakwa,
Yeah.
Duka, something like that.
Doctor, let me, because in the interest of time, are you saying this is another wave of revolutionaries acting against possibly what you called the stooges of the West, of the Western world?
Absolutely. You see, the compradors are the one in majority of the cases on the African continent. The compradors and the agents of neocolonialism is what we have been having as the presidents in the different countries on the African continent. They have been doing the bidding. And in majority of the cases, what you call democracy, this democracy of ours, whereby that after 5 years we shall have free and fair elections, presided over by the independent monitors, including European Union and America. And when they say it has been free and fair, then it has been fair. It only becomes free and fair to the extent that the European Union and America has put in place a president that is going to do the bidding of. Whether you are a rebel, they will find you in the bushes and they will monitor you. If they realize that actually you are going to be somebody that is going to help them continue the system of extracting the free flow of resources from your country to theirs, they will even support you from the bush and you will take power.
Okay. I now get you. Looks like we will still have the same problem, because you said even when we organize what we call free and fair elections, then there will be external influence trying to polish it as if it is.
But do we attempt to have free and fair elections?
Yes, we do.
Because we have here where opponents, like our laws, for instance, by next year, 2024, a person interested in starting for president can actually consult. But does it usually happen? Amama Mbabas was arrested, the others have always been stopped. In the middle of the campaign, presidential candidates are arrested. Then at the end of we have been having by-elections like Bukede, where the president himself has gone in to try to arrest people. People are beaten by morning. We see this.
Doctor, you seem to say that the possibility of what happened in Gabon is also imminent somewhere in a country.
Every potential, Africa, potentially speaking, potentially, we can have that. But the truth of the matter is, you see, I have always said, and I will repeat, for purposes of what Dr. Wanzara has just mentioned, I am not in any way, and I have never said that Africa does not have, African leaders, and our very own people, by the way, we do not have a fair share of their own problems, which is of their own making. We do. But the truth of the matter is that we keep having, there is a blueprint. That blueprint on the African continent, you can only get out of it, and we shall get out of it the moment we start organizing different from how we have been organized.
So a coup is also possible anywhere now.
Absolutely, it is.
Okay.
But those who are thinking and wishing that it is going to happen in Uganda anytime soon, I'm not part of that prayer team. Because it has been in the media and Wanzara has talked about
why do you
it.
then depart from what you say that it could happen?
No, it
You
can
see,
happen,
it
but
can.
it's not the best case scenario because
It can.
Okay.
Yes.
it actually creates reversals.
And sometimes, by the way, these coups are characteristic of weak states. When you look at the 11 bottlenecks that the President of the Republic of Uganda in 2010 talked about in South Africa, one of the bottlenecks to Africa's development is weak states. Weak states in terms of the weak armies.
I read Ali Bongo's statement at Independence. I think it was last month. And he was saying, those who think that what is happening
Elsewhere
will happen here.
Yes.
I want to assure you it will never. Aaron Kiza, what do you think about this cause?
You see, opinions of the leaders cannot matter as much as the conditions of the coups. There are some conditions that predispose countries and regimes to being overthrown. And one of them is the public discontent, public disenchantment, and especially that which is smoldering under the surface that has been oppressed for long. I want you to remember that in all areas where, even before this wave, in Sudan, in Zimbabwe, in Egypt, you get me? Like, coups happened after presidents posting very high elections. If there is one useless statistic in Africa, it is the elections of an incumbent that he has scored 90, it has nothing to do with the health of the regime he is leading or even the strength of the state. But the only thing to learn from there is that the truth will always remain the truth. If people are tired of you, as soon as you depart, they will celebrate.
Yeah.
And when people are tired of you, you create a fertile ground for not only internal coups, which are organic and which he hopes for, like coups of people whose rhetoric will be matched by action of Pan-Africanism, which I am very skeptical about, by the way, because it is rare. Even NRM came with that kind of rhetoric. Has it matched it? No. Overthrowing the Rhodesian regime in Zimbabwe, same rhetoric. Even South Africa is beginning to retrogress, yet it had a firm foundation, they were genuine leaders and so on, but from like Zuma's era, it was a lost period. Ramaphosa is a little better, but he's also not like a big Pan-African.
He had his own share of troubles.
Yes,
He's a comprador of the Guptas.
So you look at Africa and you fail to get a country of what Pan-African, because there is so big talk about Pan-Africanism. But where is Pan-Africanism in Africa? Where is a country where the ideals of Pan-Africanism, where are they being packed? But let's not lose the point. Is that for states which want to avoid coups, they should deal with the causes of coups.
Good.
Provide services.
Good.
Be fair. Let people be included. But this lie of saying that you're going to buy the latest guns from Russia, from China, from America, and you think you subdue people forever. No. I also want to have a say on why people are praying for the God of Gabon here. Partly because the conditions are also here. Yeah. People cannot campaign freely. People cannot write about Museveni. You know that some of my clients have had to run to exile just because of literature, of poetry, of tweets. Someone cannot even tweet about some members of the first family. Maybe Museveni you can, but can you tweet against Mohozi or First Lady? No, you're in. I can't do it. I can't even try it. So when that situation happens and people see that Museveni is grooming his son, they are saying, okay, we are praying that what happens to Bongo's son, even if you succeed in installing him, may it happen to your son.
All right, thank you so much, Councillor Aaron Kiza. I will look at the messages that are coming in, and I encourage you to send in your messages send in your observations and, of course, be part of this big discussion in the studio. Mr. Polo, I want to thank your panelists again, but to me, I think the rampant coups in that part of Africa is the continued existence of the French rule, unlike other colonies. For example, British colonies, where to them they have used more neo-colonialism than direct interventions as in the French West Africa. And maybe we also give you this information that the new military leader, Ngwema, is close to the family, is a close family member of the
cousin.
family.
He's
I
a
am
cousin.
Abel Akampumuza Keru. Thank you so much, Abel. He's a cousin.
Yeah, he's a cousin.
He's a cousin
To the Bongos.
to the Bongos. So the Bongo dynasty continues then.
No, you see, the population is very small, about 2.3 million, and 95% are Bantu people, related ethnic groups.
They are this
So
side
certainly-
of
yes.
Zaire.
And also you are
Now,
not going to
so-
overthrow Bongo if
Yes.
you are not close. You see, the biggest threat, for example, even to Museveni, is not necessarily from the political opposition outside the NUP. It is, he fears most like the
Inside.
people in the military and in his political party. That's why Museveni is the biggest enemy of NRM. He can't allow it even to build. He can't allow it to have even a general secretary who is working. He must continue and undermine it, because the day we have a CCM here, Museveni goes.
Actually, usually coups.
Those are Aaron's words.
You can't have a party here. Museveni is
Usually military coups are done by people so close
Yes.
to the existing
Actually, that
establishment.
is the trend now. I don't
They
know.
always
I
say-
don't think it is only the trend now. But what we are seeing in South Africa, they are the close.
No,
Because
even
bodyguard-
before,
You see.
even before, look
No,
at
the inner
Idi
circle.
Amin. Idi Amin was trusted by Milton Obote, sent to Congo and things like. He came back and overthrew him. In Uganda, Tito Okello was very close. The Okellos were very close to Obote.
But
So
yeah.
it's
the
usually people-
alternative to a military coup is like a war like backed by Tanzania. That's when you get a guerrilla movement, guerrillas.
But Apollo, me, I will not pretend to be a spokesperson of UPDF or whatever you call it. But I want to allay fears of whoever is listening to us. And I'm not saying that nothing can happen to Uganda. I want to assure you that the formation of UPDF, the way it is, at least the little that I know about it, quote the word, the little that I know about it, to think that it's okay.
Speak it.
No, it's
Speak
okay.
it.
It's fine.
For me, the danger
It's
that I
it's
see,
okay.
the danger that I see is that we talked about laws having eyes. UPDF has very educated officers,
Yeah.
okay, well trained. They see that one of their colleagues is violating the UPDF Act with the state financing and campaigning, and they are not they are prohibited from saying anything.
Sorry for
don't
cutting you short.
search this
So if
content.
the court martial really amounted to anything, Muhoozi would be on trial. If the court martial was even a semblance of had the semblance of a court, Muhoozi would be in that court martial and probably would be applying bail for him.
The good thing
But
is
the
that
fact that
our
Muhoozi has
civilian
never
courts,
even got close to the court martial.
Aaron, it's okay.
is
Even
the
in our
biggest
civilian
indictment.
courts, he has already been taken there, and our brother Bide is the one defending him.
But is it the military court? No, the
No,
case is-
even in our civilian courts,
Yeah,
he has
it's-
been taken there.
But we
If we are passing an indictment on the military court martial, no problem. Even in our civilian courts, he does not survive. He has been
Gentlemen,
taken there.
But I think
Gentlemen,
also Henry Kiza's point is that it proves that the court martial is a walking
Why
stick.
wouldn't it? Why shouldn't it move?
May not necessarily prove that, but it is one of the. This is one incident where we think probably somebody should be there and he's not there. But it may not necessarily be the bigger picture.
It is the worst case scenario because Tumukunde goes on radio. Was it Radio 1?
CPS.
Jailed for 9
CBS,
years.
CBS.
A few statements, he's jailed. BSJ gives an intellectual paper, writes an intellectual paper. It starts discussion. He's put in.
Okay.
Like, just
Gentlemen,
you need to do
gentlemen,
something small.
Where
to
we are
be-
going is closely related to what we are actually discussing. Let's talk about this semblance of peaceful public rallies that are being conducted by the National Unity Platform. Dr. Jared Wario-Ansala, what do you think has changed now? Is it because somehow in the heart of hearts, the people who are in power do not want to create a contradiction after the Muhoozi processions going around the country? What is happening with NUP? Such as looking at how they successfully held meetings in Mbarara, Fort Poto, Kasese, Kaware, with little interference from
even General Mjishamundi is there.
I think I'll look at it both because of internal factors.
Is it also because some sections of the POMA were struck down? What could it be?
That can be
No,
a
but
cause.
the sections of the POMA, Public Order Management Act, have not just been struck now. They were struck long ago, sections of the Police Act, but the police continue to commit crimes against the politicians. So for me, I'm looking at it in two ways. One, locally, of course we are seeing, I think Muhoozi's campaign is also a blessing in disguise for the politicians, because he is moving, addressing crowds,
In his
convoys,
capacity as a senior presidential advisor.
but he has not retired. So Tumukunde was an MP representing the army. When you become an MP, technically you are a politician.
Who has retired? Gunda has
was a
retired.
politician, but he
Wait,
was jailed for state.
who has retired? David Muhoozi has retired.
No, but it's okay.
Katumba has retired.
Can you submit and then you come in?
But does Katumba say anything contrary? If he said maybe he can be court-martialed.
Okay,
Oh,
go right
maybe.
ahead. Go right ahead. What has changed?
So what maybe, because we are seeing that, and so before even these NUP move campaigns or opening offices came up, they were saying, okay, since the military guy is campaigning, we are also going to test. But I wouldn't take that as very, very important, because if there were no other pressures, probably the opposition would still be attacked the way we have always done. But also, there's growing pressure externally. We have just lost funding of the World Bank. Of course, they called it human rights, violation of sexual rights. But I know things have been building up. There are a lot of petitions globally on issues of torture. We have individuals here, a number of them, not only Kaihura, who are on sanctions. And if maybe our leaders are sensitive, sanctions destroyed Zimbabwe. They destroyed Zimbabwe. And therefore, probably they are trying to move a careful line. That if we are losing this funding, the next day probably the other bilateral donors or what will pull out, and therefore the state will remain hollow. So for me, I think it is both because of the behavior of some actors like General MK and also external pressure.
Okay, and what do you make of it? Let me start with Aaron.
So what do I make of the rallies?
The rallies
It
that
is-
have been largely
yeah.
peaceful.
I don't want to depart from him, just to explain that it has created what you would call a contradiction, a dilemma, and the Museveni himself is very good at pretending, but he calculates also. He's a Machiavelli. Museveni is saying, what is the cost-benefit analysis of me clamping down this rally of Bobi Wine when my son is not only also campaigning, not only traversing around, but I'm actually endorsing, like he did in Masindi, his project. So Museveni will not behave the same way in 2026 because the stakes are not the same. And I agree there is financial pressure on the regime. So all of these facts are there, but Museveni will ignore them once the prize is the presidency. And he says that because in 2021 there was a real risk of Museveni being washed away politically. And he he stopped anyone else from campaigning, first using COVID as an excuse and other excuses, then he stopped. No one campaigned. Bobi Wine did not even set a foot in his stronghold of Buganda. The biggest thing we shall do, we can only test their commitment to this pretense of allowing rallies, because NRM never, it is a pretense because study NRM does not stand competition, has never tolerated peaceful political rallies throughout. Not even Kawanga was allowed to hold peaceful political rallies in the countryside. So this pretense will not last long. Can I be, let me be on record for saying that it won't last for long, because they will, I mean, the stakes keep increasing. Then second, we shall test their commitment even before long when Bobi Wine schedules in Buganda, in the central region. That is where will be the biggest test. Then I want them to continue with peaceful rallies to 2026.
Why don't you believe that possibly they have changed their way of doing? Maybe they have departed from.
As the good doctor said, there is a lot of pressure on them. You are poor, you don't have money, you can't run your budget, and the person who has been giving you credit is saying, hold on, because of this law which you have passed, whatever benefit you think you're going to derive from it politically, let me see how far you can run without money.
So they are still weighing options.
So, and they have casted it as a human rights violation, which it is. Now, do you want to add on? Do you want to isolate yourself further, or you want to woo the donor community back? You get it?
Dr. Comrade Rugarama, do you also agree that the authorities are still weighing up, attempting a calculative approach to these rallies after Mbalala, Fort Portal, Kasese, Kabale, the whole of Western Uganda was covered. Now Bobi Wine on Monday is crossing over to Wukedi.
My take is that in the first place, I have never found any sense with the sections of the police, military, or RDCs who have been stopping the opposition from canvassing for votes.
Do you?
I have not found sense in why they were doing that. And it is not my first time I have mentioned. Just time was it on Frontline. I sent in my views. Gladly, Charles read them out. I've said, save for the overzealous so-called cadres in the movement who overstep their boundaries in order to impress their appointing authority, there is no correct political calculation that you should go all the way to stop the opposition from canvassing for votes here in Uganda. The only correct thing to do, like Aaron said, he wants to be on record. I want to be on record here. The only correct thing to do for NRM, and they were doing it, by the way, in the past, is simply deploy the correct caliber of people to deliver government services. The services to the people, whether you are UPC, DP, you are NRM, you are NUP, you are whatever you are, the moment the services meant to reach the people do reach the people. The health centers are well equipped with the medicines that come from the medical stores. On time, they are not expired. The doctors and nurses are paid on time and given housing. The teachers are considered properly, and you don't create segregation. You look at it holistically.
But what you propose is what you're proposing really plausible?
Yes, it is. Actually, what is happening is what is not plausible. Mine is plausible, and I will tell you, when you go to sincere people who appreciate the NRM ideology and you talk to them, they will tell you exactly the things that I am talking here. The only difference is, unfortunately, that we have got an increasing number of people who do not appreciate the NRM ideology that are occupying offices of responsibility. That is the unfortunate bit of it.
I want you, Comrade, to speak in the context of what is happening.
What is happening?
What we have. What I mean in the context of of the current political circumstances.
Let me tell you.
Can that happen? Can the authorities withstand the pressure of the opposition holding public meetings, speaking up about the ills
it can happen.
Government, and exposing the whole that?
Look at it this way. You see, my brother, Comrade OO, for instance, there is when he reaches on the platform of this nature, even by the way, Dr. Chris Variomunsi, at one time, and sometimes even now, by the way, he comes up and says, no, this is an error on our part. We are going to put it right next time. I love that level of honesty. If we can get an increased number of people within the movement who are now in government to say, no, this is an error on our part, we are going to fix it. And we deploy the correct cadreship. By correct cadreship, I don't mean NRM. No, if it is a program like NADS, for instance, wealth creation, and we are saying people should be supplying, say, seedlings, whether the person with the best quality of seedlings is UPC, but he is the one who can supply the best goats, let that one supply.
What I asked, is that possible?
Yes, it is very much possible. It is simply a deliberate effort on the part of the NRM to say this can happen and it will happen.
Then why has it been different?
Because
why have the public meetings, every time they have been crushed and quashed?
Aporo and our dear
What
viewers,
was the problem?
systems sometimes get clogged. It is our responsibility, whether that responsibility, whether that responsibility is taken up by one person, whether it is taken up by 10 persons, against the thousands, and you unclog the system, it will happen. I want to say, in recapitulation here, I want to say that the freeing, if you want to call it that way, of the political parties to go out there and say what they want to say, let them market their manifestos. The correct way of testing the actual size of a cock is to throw it in the rain. After it has rained, leave around this business whereby it spreads its wings like this. You will tell that actually this cook, after all, was this big. Let them move. I am not a Jewish prophet. I can tell you, the moment we have our act together, this MK project notwithstanding, NRM will still beat whoever it is going to compete with come 2026.
Thank you. Do you think what Comrade Galama is saying is possible for the authorities in this country to sit back and let the opposition enjoy their moment?
Ideally, it is possible because it's a matter of choice. But do the crop of leaders we have in Uganda, are they capable of making that choice? The answer is no. A Machiavelli cannot do that. Museveni is Machiavellian. Museveni is a sadist. Museveni is a selfish politician. He's a dictator, a violent man. From Ruwero to date, he cannot allow a competitor. Museveni does not compete.
They have allowed it for the whole week.
Where?
With NUP.
I'm telling you, it's because the stakes are not high. Let us have this thing in 2026. I want to see wine combing villages in the
Museveni competed with Chiza Besigye from prison. He was nominated from prison. Our own systems here who had refused him to get nominated from Rosera, the same systems allowed him to get nominated from Rosera. We should
Why
also
was it even a debate?
Yeah,
Why was it
I'm
even a
saying
debate?
that happened. That after he had been nominated, he came, and by the it was during that time that he ever got the highest score. It was that close. It was something like 37 or 39 or thereabout. If that happened really, and I've said before, NRM is not an angelic institution. It has got faults. But for heaven's sake, there are some points which we must create the NRM. And the other problem which I have already observed here is that there is a crop of cadres who become overzealous and they end up giving NRM a bad name. We shall uproot them, don't worry.
Where I want to disagree, I agree with his point. Where I want to disagree is the assumption that somehow these are overzealous, they are exception. No, that is the norm in NRM. If it was not the norm, Museveni would put an end to it.
All
you
right.
get me?
Gentlemen.
Why does Museveni appoint corrupt people? Why does he promote the wrong guys when the good ones, these ones are here?
Thank you
so
so
that
much.
goes to Museveni,
now,
the leader.
The Mabati minister, what are they still doing in office?
Thank you so much.
The political decision will be taken. You remember we talked about the political
It is a policy.
They need to step aside.
The policy
You
is to
cannot
have
be
the wrong guys.
the fifth and you're presiding over the same ministry.
In fact, if you started doing what you're doing in NRM, you would suffer an axe.
Really?
You would be suspected.
Okay, let's look at the messages. Allowing NUP to traverse the country is not about Museveni's repentance. It's about continuing his agenda of seeing off FDC and wiping it out of people's minds. Thereafter, he will see what to do with NUP.
But even the
Wait a minute. He is handling one part at a time. As for Dr. Rugarama, his headline stance is typical of people drunk with power. One day he will swear 7 times by what makes him a man that he has never belonged to NRM.
What am I benefiting from NRM?
Let them not forget the Kabaka riots, and he is Walter. Thank you so much, Walter. An observation there. Before we walk out, because we only have a few minutes, Dr. Gerard, there have been these counter accusations in this particular matter, with the NRM supporters saying that it is the opposition who provoked the security forces to react with tear gas and batons and everything. And actually I hosted one of them this week, and he said, you see, this time maybe the opposition have not provoked the security. But again, the opposition also are saying, you see, now because they have not provoked us, they have not thrown tear gas, that is why we have enjoyed peace. What do you make of that?
Before I left Allied Politics, where I belong to a political party, and I was a leader of that political party in Makerere. Yes, UPC in Makerere University. Under the leadership of Mwanga Chivumbi, we formed the Popular Resistance Against Life Presidency. And I was the General Secretary of that in Makerere University. We coordinated protests peacefully with the people in Chambogo, with the MOOBs, with town people. I led a group with my colleagues from Makerere. We brought a petition. We banned some of Bisanja at Constitutional Square when it was still free. And then we marched to the British High Commission. By then it was near Parliament. Under Katumba Wamala, we were not touched. We moved, we petitioned, we presented our petition, championing for stopping removal of term limits. We were not touched. Nothing was looted. Time came for Mabira protests, when we were protesting against the giving of Mabira forest to Meta to grow sugarcane. We started peacefully, but on being attacked, they degenerated into violence. But then later, I have observed, I was caught up into the Vesige riots. I was not protesting, but they found me, not were Kabaka's riots. They found me in Nakurabi. I was walking. And then I could not go home the whole day, because the manner in which the police, the forces
at the station
acted,
for the whole night.
it was really, people are not mad, they are not crazy. Now, we have seen uninterrupted rallies. We saw big rallies of Kizza Besigye. Uninterrupted. They go peacefully, and people go home discussing.
The question is, what precipitates the violence?
Usually, he talks about the overzealous officers of the UPDF or police, but also I cannot ignore the fact that sometimes they are under command. Because if they are not under command, where do you get the audacity, for instance, to go and switch off a radio station, like it happened with the digital radio? Amriat was had paid for airtime during 2020
spoke for minutes,
election. Actually, it was 30 minutes talking to himself in the studio. So, if it is not a system, why can't you punish such an official who goes to switch off a radio station? So I want to believe that this is an appeal, actually, that disrupting political processes does not help anyone. Because let's leave political parties to recruit, let them have branches, let them train leaders. Uganda will benefit in the form of good leaders. Okay. We were able to get leaders like President Museveni because they were trained in UPC, in DP. But today you are going to have robbers on the street becoming political leaders, offices. And this will really destroy Uganda.
And what about the claim that possibly the opposition also provoke security and chaos?
I cannot rule out some actors who are violent.
Actually, some people say that that you see now the
okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's important.
I cannot
some say that actually the opposition benefit politically when the meetings become violent.
Then those are not true opposition. No. Because if I'm a leader of a political party,
because they will come front page on.
I would love to have peace, so that I'm able to promote my program, my ideology. But if there are chaos, then
opposition, organizing a rally, he will know, is very expensive. Even just one rally in the district, you don't invest resources and human beings to go and provoke police. But the function of crime prevention is a police function. It's not even an opposition function. So even if there is one person who has provoked police, are you going to end a rally? Deal with that person, segregate them, deal with the criminals, and leave the civilian, the peaceful living Ugandans alone. Yeah.
Okay, Comrade Rugarama, did you also agree that this is short-lived? This semblance of peace is short-lived?
No, it is always in terms of in political terms. It is always important for you to, after gauging and judging the situation, to change tactics. That is one. But what is important actually, here...
For your information, gentlemen, yesterday the army released a statement about misuse of military attire. And it was a strong warning.
The red belts and what have you?
It's a strong warning that those individuals who abuse military stock will be dealt with very soon.
I hate it. Let me come out clear. You know, I have been representing some of these people. Do you know that same military was getting people off the street and taking them to Machinde, putting them, giving them berets and detaining them forever and arraigning them before court martial? They should just keep quiet. They have abused that red beret thing. They even went ahead as registering a trademark only to silence the opposition. The military should be professional. I'm talking to the military now. I'm speaking the military. Be professional. Get out of our politics. We need a peaceful country.
Aaron, I'm trying to relate it with these meetings because wherever they
are preparing ground.
They are putting
Stop them. Yes.
So eventually,
I'm telling you what the military is doing, not the law. What the politics is doing is prepare for an end. I thought it is short-lived, and they have started. They want to use it as an excuse to stop another rally now. As soon as they get to massacre, I'm telling you, I will be happy if Bobby Wine is allowed to have these things in Uganda, but I doubt.
And we are giving our parting shots.
Okay, yeah, sure. Let me be on record. There is a caller there who said that
FDC
hardliner. No, he talked about hardliner.
He also said President Museveni is dealing with one party
at a time. No, but in reference to my stand in as far as this dialogue is concerned, I want to put it on record that I'm one of the very few people. First of all, I don't hold any job.
That your hardline stance is typical of people drunk with power.
Thank you so much. First of all, to the benefit of my audience, my conscience is very clear, and I believe that this TV is viewed by so many people, including high up in the political ladders of this country. They know me. I don't hold any job in the government, and therefore I do not benefit materially or otherwise. I simply subscribe to NRM as a party right from my student days. My record is very clear, and I'm one of the very few people from the Pan-African angle who will stand and tell my very own in NRM that this is wrong. Now, very few do that. That's why I refer to this other crop of people who are overzealous and they end up abusing the law, like my brother Aaron has observed. I am not party to that group of people in NRM who are going to encourage or participate in breaking the law simply because they belong to a party which is in government. Good. So having said that, I also want to put it on record that, one, I want to have these political parties in this country being let free to go as long as what they are doing is within the law, and NRM is not doing any political party or anybody a favor by observing what the law says.
Aaron, your parting shot on this particular matter?
Yeah, if the military had a problem with bullets, they should report to police. They don't need to start issuing public statements. So for me, I think the military, one of the primary problems of Uganda is the militarization of the state. Until we remove the military from the governance of this country, we shall continue having this dictatorship, and people will continue suffering, and people will be tortured. So we need to get the military back to the barracks, remove them from parliament, remove them from pretending to dispense justice to civilians, and they defend our borders, and they build bridges, and we even increase their salary.
Dr. Jared Wanzala, your parting shot.
Just a brief one. There's something I wanted to talk before it pass on to my colleagues. It's also true that there are some actors who do not believe in maybe state institutions, and that is very dangerous. For instance, I saw the FDC National Council meeting in Dajanankumbi, where lives were at stake. People are holding sticks, another gang is coming, and when the police comes in to restore order, there are actors I saw insulting the police, insulting. Do you want to let people die in such circumstances? So I think it was in such, it is in order for police to come and regulate and ensure that there is peace in the place. So for that, I also want to caution those actors. Then lastly, I don't belong to any political party. I am a researcher, I am an observer, but I am interested in seeing a peaceful country. Yeah. My appeal goes to the government that let the values that are mentioned in sowing the mustard seed. I read the president's book, Sowing the Mustard Seed.
The first edition.
The first edition.
Because the second edition is distorted.
No, I read the first edition. Yes. Issues of oppression do not build a country. Yeah, true. Issues, if we are talking issues of human rights, destroy a country. My appeal is that we should have the courage. Actually, Mugisha Moto always says that sometimes there's the will, but the courage. Let's have the courage. Let's have conversations to make Uganda a better place for everyone.
Well, finally, from you, Dr. Jared Wanzala, after seeing, after seeing that the opposition were also peaceful, they did not conduct any. Don't you have any hope that possibly this can be let to go? Unlike what Aaron said, that it's just a matter of time.
No, I also, of course, I'm happy with the fact that there is some freedom. As the other person sent a message saying they're handling efforts. I know that VSJ, Semuju, they have been in Acholi. They are also moving. I know, but has disrupted them. I'm happy that now, but I am not sure
whether it will be sustained.
Whether next year, 2020, when the electoral process begins, to be the same. Last time it was COVID that was the excuse. This time I don't know.
And
All right.
Apple, I want to tell you just in 1 second that the truth of the matter is that NRM has got the best manifesto that you can ever come across. We simply need to press the best cadres to do the correct job in our
After
population.
36 years,
There's no
we are
problem.
still looking for the best cadres.
There will always be challenges.
Thank you so much, Council Aaron Chiza. Thank you so much, Dr. Gerard Wanzala. Thank you so much, our audience. And thank you so much, you who contributed and made observations here and there. And the production team, thank you so much. It was amazing. We catch up next week on Saturday. My name is Tim Apollo. Let me wish you a splendid week ahead and a very enjoyable weekend. Good afternoon.